A very warm welcome to this video. I am Prabal Nandwani and you're watching the monthly predictions for the month of August 2023. First of all, let's have a look at the various planetary changes which are going to happen this month. Well, on the 17th of August at about 11:20 IST, Sun is going to move to Leo. Again, as far as Mars is concerned, it is going to enter Virgo on the 19th of August at about 12:34 Indian Standard Time. And then Mercury gets retrograde in Leo on the 24th of August at about 1:30 hours IST. And finally, Venus, which got retrograde back on the 23rd of July, moves back in the reverse direction to Cancer on the 7th of August at about 14:50 hours IST. Apart from this, the various combinations of planets which are happening this month is something like on the 1st of August, we have the full moon, that is the combination of sun and moon. And from then on, we'll have the waning half. And then the new moon is going to happen on the 16th of August, from when we'll have the bright half or the waxing half. We have the Gaj Kesari Yoga happening on these dates. The 1st, the 2nd, the 8th, the 9th, the 14th, 15th, 16th, and the 19th, 20th, and 21st of August, which is a very good, very benefic yoga made from the combination of Jupiter and Moon. Then we have the Mahalakshmi Yoga made from the combination of Mars and Moon happening on the 17th, the 18th, the 20th, and the 21st of August. And finally, we have the Buddha Aditya Yoga, or the combination of Sun and Mercury, from the 18th till the end of this month. The gods and goddesses are showering their blessings all throughout the month of August 2023, and we have 3 festivals coming up. On the 19th of August, we have Haryali Teej. On the 21st of August, we have Nag Panchami, which is a very, very important event, especially for people who want to remedy out the snake problem or the issues with the Rahu and Ketu in their Kundali, and this happens only once a year. And finally, on the 30th of August, we have the Raksha Bandhan. Now, what does all of this mean for various of your zodiac signs is something that we are going to discuss. But before we do that, there are 2 important aspects to be understood. First of all, a lot of people keep asking which of the zodiac signs predictions should I watch. So the answer is you should see that at your birth time, what was the ascending sign or the moon. So the position of the moon or the ascendant at the time of your birth will let you know which of these zodiac signs you have to watch out for. So for example, if at your birth time moon was in Virgo, then whatever I say in this video regarding Virgo would be relevant to you. Again, out of the ascendant and the moon, ascendant is more specific because it changes every 2 hours, while the moon changes only after 2.5 days, and therefore it is important that if you have the ascendant position of the birth time, that you watch that particular sign in this video. Secondly, the planetary combinations which were there prevalent at your birth time do play a very, very important role as far as the future predictions are concerned, and all I'm going to say is subject to the effects which are created and generated by those combinations which were existent in your birth horoscope at the time of your birth. Now, having said that, let us move ahead and talk about what is in store for various of the zodiac signs all through the month of August 2023. First of all, let us talk about the Aries sign. Now, in your horoscope, in the month of August, the planets are positioned in this way. In the first house, we have Rahu and Jupiter. In the 4th house, we have the presence of Sun. In the 5th house, we have the presence of 3 planets, a retrograde Venus, then Mercury, and then Mars. In the 7th house, we have Ketu, and in the 11th house, we have the presence of retrograde Saturn. Now, what does all this planetary placement mean for various of your life aspects is something that we are going to talk in detail right ahead. Talking about your luck factor first. Luck is seen from the 9th house, and the owner of the 9th house is Jupiter, which is sitting right in the ascendant after crossing the degrees of Rahu. So luck is running high. It is supporting you. If there were some important decisions which you have to take, then this is the time. Just go ahead and take them. Talking about your health now. Health is seen from the first house. The owner of the first house is not very nicely placed along with Mercury, and after the 19th it is going to move to Jupiter and will be hemmed between one side Mercury and the other side Ketu. Both of them are enemies, and therefore you need to be on guard as far as your health is concerned. In case there is some problem, then doing prayers, offering prayers to Goddess Bhadrakali would be helpful. Also, Lord Narasimha would be helpful, prayers to Lord Narasimha. And finally, doing prayers of Rahu, that is Bij Mantra of Rahu, Om Brahm Brim Brahm Sarahve Nama, will also prove beneficial. Moving ahead and talking about your love life now. The love life is seen from the 5th house. The owner of the 5th house will enter the 5th house from the 17th. So after the 17th, this will be a better time for new prospects on the love horizon. Next, talking about your marital life. Marital life is seen from the 7th house. In the 7th house, we have the presence of Ketu for the past few months, and therefore there are bound to be certain kind of misunderstandings. However, the presence of Jupiter in the 1st house does show grace falling on your marital life, which means if you do some remedies, they will affect you in the positive way. So as far as the month of August is concerned, the owner of the 7th house, Venus, is going back to Cancer. Again, there can be blame games, you blaming the spouse blaming you, and in order to prevent them, it is better to be wise than to be sorry, and Jupiter is the giver of wisdom. Therefore, do the mantras of Jupiter. Om Gram Gring Gram Sa Guruve Nama. Om Gram Gring Gram Sa Guruve Nama. That is going to be helpful, or running your marital life through wisdom, not by the facts, will be better. Moving ahead and talking about education now. The education is seen from the 5th house, and the owner of the 5th house is going to be in the 5th house on the 17th. So 17 onwards is a very good time if you have to study something, if you have to take admission somewhere, that will be a good time. Moving ahead and talking about your career now. Career is seen from the 10th house, and the owner of the 10th house is placed comfortably well in the 11th house, and therefore career is on the high. If you were looking on for a new job, you can get that. If you are looking on to perform well in the present job, that will also happen. So it is a nice time as far as career is concerned. Let's talk about your business now. Business is seen from the 7th house. The owner of the 7th house will be going to the 4th house, and Ketu is also here. So a lot of customers will be dissatisfied with your service. Try and find means in order to satisfy your customers. That will hold the key to gaining more success in your business. Let's move ahead and talk about the Taurus sign now. First of all, let us see at various planetary positions in your horoscope during the month of August 2023. Well, we have the presence of Sun in the 3rd house. In the 4th house, we have 3 planets. First, it is Venus, which is retrograde, then Mercury, then Mars. Then in your 6th house, we have the presence of Ketu. In your 10th house, we have the presence of retrograde Saturn. And finally, in the 12th house, we have the presence of Rahu and Jupiter. What does all this planetary placement mean for various of your life aspects is something that we are going to discuss right now. Let's talk about the love factor. Luck is seen from the 9th house. The owner of the 9th house is comfortably posited in the 10th house, and therefore this is a good time as far as luck is concerned. If you were thinking of taking some important decisions in your life, just go ahead and take those. Let's move ahead and talk about the health factor now. The health is seen from the Ascendant. Lord of the Ascendant happens to be Venus. Venus is retrograde, and on the 7th it is going to enter the sign of Cancer, and therefore you need to take care of what you drink. Okay, other than that, everything is fine. Let's move ahead and talk about your love life now. Love life is seen from the 5th house. The owner of the 5th house happens to be Mercury, and Mercury is comfortably placed in the 4th house and will also be met by its friend Sun from the 17th onwards. So this is going to be good. However, Mars is going to enter the 5th house and is not going to be very comfortably placed over there. And Mars in your case happens to be the 12th house, and it also the owner of the 7th house, which means that this is a good time even for creating new proposals. However, if you were thinking of proposing the if you're already in an affair and if you were thinking of proposing your already existing boyfriend or girlfriend regarding marriage, then this is not a good time, because that proposal might fall flat, because Mars is being hemmed between its enemies Mercury and Ketu. Let's move forward and let's talk about your marital life now. Marital life is seen from the 7th house. The owner of the 7th house happens to be Mars, which will on the 19th move to the Virgo sign, and from there it will be hemmed between Mercury and Ketu. So therefore marital life will be on the rocks. There are some problems as far as marriage is seen. This is what I can see, and you need to be on little guard, little more patient, so that things can settle down in 1 or 2 months, and then again the marriage life will become better for good. Let's talk about your education now. Education is seen from the 5th house, and the owner of the 5th house Mercury is positioned well, and therefore it is a good time as far as education is concerned. Also, after the 19th, Mars is going to enter the 5th house, and in case you were planning to go out and you have to take the IELTS or the GRE, GMAT or exams like those, then after the 19th there are better chances of success in those examinations which are concerned with your placements or admissions outside India or outside your country. Okay, let's move ahead and talk about the career prospects. The career prospects are seen from the 10th house, and the owner of the 10th house is comfortably placed in the 10th house, which means that this is a good time as far as career is concerned. Fortune is supporting your career, so you do some self-effort, it will give you 100% result. You go out and apply for a job, you will be able to grab the job. If you wanted to do another project, and if you try and ask your boss regarding that, you will be given that new project. So it is a good time as far as career is concerned. Let's talk about your business prospects now. They are seen from the 7th house. The owner of the 7th house is like a so-so condition placed with Mercury in the 4th house, but it is going to move in the 5th house, and it is going to be hemmed between Mercury and Ketu, and therefore you need to be on guard as far as business is concerned, especially after the 19th, which means that you should not invest a lot in your business unless you are very sure about the payment, or you receive the payment in part so as to cover the amount at least which you are investing in the raw materials, etc. A good time will start after this Mars will cross the degrees of Ketu, which is going to take a little while. So be on guard, don't take new orders just on the face of it. Try and dig a little deeper, and if somebody is going to give you enough advance, only then go for it. Now let's move forward and talk about the Gemini sign. First of all, let's have a look at the various planetary placements in your horoscope all throughout the month of August 2023. Well, in your 2nd house, we have the presence of Sun. In the 3rd house, we have the retrograde Venus, then Mercury, then Mars. In your 5th house, we have the presence of Ketu. In your 9th house, we have the presence of retrograde Saturn. And in your 11th house, we have the presence of Rahu and Jupiter. What does all this planetary placement mean for various of your life aspects is something that we are going to discuss in detail right ahead. Talking about the luck factor. The luck factor is seen from the 9th house, and the owner of the 9th house is sitting in the 9th house, but it happens to be the 8th lord also, which means that luck is good but not too high. So if there are some important decisions of your life which needs to be taken, it is far better that we wait for some little more time, especially from the time when Saturn gets direct, that is happening on the 4th of November. After that, it will be a better time to take important decisions of your life. Let's move ahead and talk about the health factor now. The health is seen from the 1st house. The owner of the 1st house happens to be Mercury in your case, and Mercury is combined with Mars till the 19th, and after that Mars will move ahead to the next sign. So health is going to be okay. The immunity power is going to be good after the 19th. Before that, be a little wary of what you eat. Do not eat from outside restaurants except where you are very sure about what you are eating. Let's talk about your love life now. Love life is seen from the 5th house. The presence of Ketu over there is definitely a problem unless and until you are having an intercaste love affair or an interreligion love affair. Now, even if there are some misunderstandings, but there is grace of Jupiter as well. Therefore, if you talk it out, the misunderstandings will subside also. So it will be like misunderstandings and then patch up, and then misunderstandings and then patch up, and then misunderstandings and then patch up. This is how it will go. Let's talk about your marital life now. Marital life is seen from the 7th house. The owner of the 7th house happens to be Jupiter, and Jupiter is placed in the 11th house. So you're going to have a very smooth ride as far as marriage is concerned. It can also lead to an increase in income of you and your spouse in the month of August 2023. Let's talk about the education now. The education is seen from the 5th house. We have Jupiter aspecting the 5th house and the Ketu being present over there. Also, we have Venus in the 3rd house, but it will go to the 2nd house from the 7th, and then this will be a good time as far as education is concerned. In case there were some exams in which you did not score a good marks and you want to have a retest done, then this is a good time to do that because Venus is retrograde. Moving ahead and talking about your career now. The career is seen from the 10th house. The owner of the 10th house is placed very well in the 11th house. So if you were looking to take another job, if you were looking to apply for a job, this is a very good time. Your career is going to progress in the month of August 2023. Let's move ahead and talk about your business now. Business is seen from the 7th house, and the owner of the 7th house happens to be Jupiter, which is very, very comfortably placed in the 11th house. So business is going to grow in the month of August. This is a good time for business growth. If you were planning to invest some more money in your business, if you're planning to explore some new territories, some new products, some new customers, then yes, just go ahead and do it because your destiny does support your business all throughout this month and in the coming months as well. Let's move ahead and talk about the Cancer sign. Now, let's have a look at the various planetary placements in the month of August 2023 in your horoscope. In your first house, we have the presence of Sun. In the second house, we have the presence of 3 planets. First it is Venus, then it is Mercury, and finally it is Mars. In your fourth house, we have the presence of Ketu. In the 8th house, we have the presence of Saturn. In the 10th house, we have the presence of Rahu and Jupiter. What does all this planetary placement mean for various of your life aspects is something that we are going to talk in detail about right ahead. In your chart, the most important thing to be seen is your luck factor, which is seen from the 9th house. The owner of the 9th house happens to be Jupiter, which is comfortably placed in the 10th house, which means luck is good. If there were some important decisions which you have to take, then this is the right time to do so. Let's talk about your health now. Health is seen from the Ascendant. In the Ascendant, we have the presence of Sun till the 17th of this month, and the Sun happens to be, in your case, the second Lord, and it also gives you enough immunity power. And from the 7th, Venus is going to enter your Ascendant. Venus, in your case, happens to be the owner of the 11th house, and it also happens to be the 4th lord, and therefore this is going to be a good month as far as your health is concerned. The immunity is maintained. Let's talk about your love life now. Love life is seen from the 5th house. The owner of the 5th house is Mars. Till the 19th, it is just crossed the degrees of Mercury, so it is okay. It is a nice position to be in. However, after the 19th, it will be hemmed between Mercury and Ketu. Then it will not be a good ride. So if you were thinking of giving some proposals, then do it before the 19th, and otherwise you can enjoy your love life all throughout the month, especially till the 19th of August. Moving ahead and talking about your marital life now. Marital life is seen from the 7th house, but the owner of the 7th house, that is Saturn, is sitting in the 8th house, which is not a very conducive position to be in. Although it is retrograde, so the misunderstandings, there will be inclinations from your spouse side to reduce the misunderstandings. Now it will be upon you to make sure that you grab those, especially after the 7th, because the Venus is going to come to the Ascendant, and if you are able to resolve these issues, it will be far better for you. Otherwise, you will be repeating the same mistakes which you have committed in your past lives, because both of these planets are retrograde. Although it is a matter of esoteric astrology, still I am able to see it, and I am able to figure out and tell you that you should not repeat those mistakes. So if the spouse comes back to you, you must accept the sorry and move ahead. Let's talk about your education now. The education is seen from the 5th house, and the owner of the 5th house happens to be Mars. So it is a good time as far as education is concerned till the 19th of August, because after the 19th the position of Mars will not be good. It will be hemmed between its enemies Mercury and Ketu. Let's talk about your career now. The career is seen from the 10th house, and in the 10th house we have the presence of Jupiter. And till the 19th Mars is also in Leo, so it is a good time, especially till the 19th. If you were to apply for a job interview for a job, then it is better that you do it before the 19th. After the 19th, for those of you who are already in a job, there is a chance of some kind of conspiracy against you, so you need to be on guard. Be mindful of what you speak and what you do. Do not take initiatives. Try to take a back seat. Try to see somebody else perform the action and just support him or her. That will be far better for you in the coming months. Let's talk about your business now. The business is seen from the 7th house. The owner of the 7th house happens to be Saturn. Not a very good position. Saturn is in the 8th house. Although Venus is going to come to the 1st house, it is going to support your business for a little time. So, however, it is not a very, very good time. Yes, you are going to gain some old customers back in this month. That is a good news for you. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, let us move ahead and move to the Leo sign now. Let's have a look at various planetary placements throughout the month of August 2023 in the horoscope of people who are born under the Leo sign. So in your ascendant we have Venus, Mercury and Mars. In your 3rd house we have the presence of Ketu. In your 7th house we have the presence of Saturn. In your 9th house we have the presence of Rahu and Jupiter. And finally in your 12th house we have the presence of the mighty Sun. What does all this planetary placement mean for various of your life aspects is something that we are going to discuss right ahead. Let's talk about your destiny factor first. Now, destiny is seen from the 9th house, and the 9th house is being occupied by Jupiter and Rahu. Now, Jupiter having crossed the degrees of Rahu is a good sign. However, Mars will get hemmed in between Ketu and Mercury from the 19th of August. So till the 19th, the luck is high. After that, it will be low. And therefore, if there are some important decisions to be made, just make sure that you do that before the 19th of August. Let's talk about the health factor now. Now, the health is seen from the ascendant. Now, in the ascendant, we see that there are a lot of things which are happening. But the Sun, which is the owner of the ascendant, is going to join the ascendant from the 17th, and from then on, the immunity levels will be nice. Let's talk about your love life. The love life is seen from the 5th house, and the owner of the 5th house happens to be, in your case, Jupiter, which is forming a 120-degree aspect with the 5th house, which means this is a good time as far as love is concerned. So, especially love at the college level or the higher education level is a very, very nice prospect. Love with a person of a different caste, of a different religion. If you wanted to give some proposals or were thinking that somebody is going to give you, then yes, this is a very, very conducive time. So enjoy it till it lasts. Then let's move forward and talk about marriage life. Married life is seen from the 7th house. The owner of the 7th house is placed in the 7th house, which is a very good aspect. So marriage life is going to run smooth. However, there might be little hiccups because Saturn has got retrograde, and therefore it watches and forms combination with Ketu of 120 degrees. Which means that in case some of you might have certain kind of misunderstandings, then doing Ketu's mantras are going to be immensely beneficial. The Bij mantra of Ketu is Om Sram Srim Sram Sah Ketve Nama. Once again, Om Sram Srim Sram Sah Ketve Nama. Let's move ahead and talk about the educational prospects now. Education is seen from the 5th house. The 5th house is being aspected from a 120 degree by the 5th Lord Jupiter. This is a very important thing. It is a very beneficial thing. Also, Jupiter is joined with Rahu, which means that it is a good time for education. If you were planning to take admission somewhere, then this is the right time to apply for it. It also promises education in more than one field. So, you can also do 2 or 3 courses simultaneously. Let's move ahead and talk about your career prospects now. The career is seen from the 10th house, and the 10th lord in your case happens to be Venus. Now, Venus is in a good position currently, but it is going to move on the 7th in the 12th house. So in case there were some of you who were engaged in projects related with imports and exports or related with foreign countries, then it is very nice. Otherwise, you might be subjected to some blames at your workplace. For example, it is you who were responsible for a failed project. That might be one of the blames which you might get. So you need to be a little on guard on what kind of communication is being happening around you. Okay, be wary. Alright, the next thing we are going to talk about is your business now, and business is seen from the 7th house, and the 7th lord is in the 7th house, which is a good sign, and therefore business is going to be largely good. It is a good time for business growth. So let's move ahead and talk about the Virgo sign. Let's first know where the planets are positioned throughout the month of August 2023 in your horoscope. Well, in your 2nd house, we have the presence of Ketu. In the 6th house, we have the presence of Saturn. In the 8th house, we have the presence of Rahu and Jupiter. In your 11th house, we have the presence of Sun. And in the 12th house, we have the presence of 3 planets. First, a retrograde Venus, then Mercury, and finally Mars. Now, what does all this planetary placement mean for various of your life aspects is something which we are going to talk in detail about right ahead. Let's talk about your luck factor first. Luck is seen from the 9th house. The owner of the 9th house happens to be Venus, and Venus is sitting in the 12th house, but from the 7th it will enter the 11th house, so therefore it is going to be a good time as far as luck is concerned, especially after the 7th of August. If you were thinking of taking some important decisions, that luck is favoring you. Moving ahead and talking about your health now. Health is seen from the Ascendant. The Lord of the Ascendant is there in the 12th house, so this is not a very good time. So you need to keep the immunity power high. In order to keep the immunity power high, you can do the Bij mantras of Mercury, and also just make sure that you do not eat food from the outside. Alright, to find the Bij mantras of Mercury, you can there's already a separate video on my YouTube channel. You can just log on and learn its correct pronunciation. Let's move forward and talk about your love life now. The love life is seen from the 5th house. The owner of the 5th house happens to be Saturn, but it is sitting in the 6th house, which is creating some misunderstandings, but it is retrograde, so there is a chance to overcome those misunderstandings, because Venus will also come in the 11th house from the 7th. It will also be retrograde, so past life mistakes can be now rectified, or the past mistakes can now be rectified, which means earlier relationships which were broken because of misunderstandings, you can forgive and forget and again enjoy your love life. Let's talk about your marital prospects now, which are seen from the 7th house. The owner of the 7th house is Jupiter. It is lying in the 8th house, not a good position. With Rahu, again not a good position. So it is a rocky month as far as relationship with your wife or husband is concerned. If the spouse is suffering from bad health, then chanting the Bij mantras of Rahu is going to be immensely beneficial for him or her, and the Bij mantra of Rahu is Om Brahm Brim Brahm Sa Rahve Nama. A separate video is again available on my YouTube channel on this particular mantra. Let's move ahead and talk about your educational prospects. Education is seen from the 5th house. The owner of the 5th house is in the 6th house and watching the 5th house also. Venus will be sitting in the 11th house and watching it, and therefore it is a very good time as far as education is concerned. If you appear from some exams, then you will get numbers beyond your expectations. So it is a good time. Let's talk about your career prospects now. The career is seen from the 10th house, and the owner of the 10th house in your case happens to be Mercury, which is in the 12th house, and it is with Mars, which is the lord of the 3rd and the 8th house. This is not very good, especially till the 19th of August. So after that, education is career is far better. However, if you were trying to grab some foreign assignments, then yes, the whole month of August 2023 is good for you. Also, if you're already working in some foreign related projects, this is a good month for you. Let's move on and talk about your business life now. Business life is seen from the 7th house, and the 7th lord is in the 8th house, which Rahu. Again, this is not a very good time. So things are not what they seem to be. You need to dig a little deeper before you finally decide to invest in something. Let's move ahead and talk about the Libra sign now. Let's have a look at where the various planets are positioned in your horoscope all throughout the month of August 2023. Well, in your first house, we have the presence of Ketu. In the fifth house, we have a retrograde Saturn. In the seventh house, we have the presence of Rahu and Jupiter. In the 10th house, we have the presence of Sun. And in the 11th house, we have the presence of three planets. First, a retrograde Venus, then Mercury, and finally, Mars. What does all this planetary placement mean for various of your life aspects is something that we are going to discuss in detail right ahead. First of all, let's talk about the luck factor. The luck factor is seen from the 9th house. The owner of the 9th house happens to be Mercury, and it is positioned with Mars, but Mars will move away from the 19th, and therefore the luck is going to increase after the 19th. If there were some important decisions which you had to take, kindly take them after the 19th of August. Let's talk about your health now. Ketu occupying the Ascendant, which is a prime significator of your health, is not very good. It leads to backaches or aches in your knees or your foot, and if that has been the case, then chanting of Ketu's Bij mantra, Om Sram Srim Sram Sa Ketve Namah, is going to be immensely useful for you. Apart from it, Ketu also causes hormonal changes like thyroid, etc. So again, Bij mantra of Ketu is going to be helpful. Let's talk about your love life now. Love life is seen from the 5th house, and the presence of retrograde Saturn over there is immensely blissful. That means your love life is going to be good, and in case you're targeting for some new people in your life, you don't have a love life and you want to give some proposal to somebody, then yes, go ahead and do it. And what you gain in return is somebody who you had your past life relationships also somewhere with. And this is a part of esoteric astrology, which is very interesting, just by the way. And then let's move forward and talk about your married life. Married life is seen from the 7th house. In the 7th house, we have the presence of Rahu, but then Jupiter as well, and the degrees of Jupiter are more. So therefore, if there are any kind of misunderstandings which were there, they will be resolved very easily, and you're going to have a smooth and a nice married relationships. Now let's talk about the educational aspects. Education is seen from the 5th house. In the 5th house, we have Saturn, and Ketu is trying to help Saturn as far as education is concerned by giving a lot of concentration power. So this is a good time as far as education is concerned. Not only this particular month, but right ahead, a year and a half is also good. So if you were thinking of doing taking some admission in higher education courses, then yes, this time is very conducive. Let's talk about your career now. Career is seen from the 10th house. In the 10th house, we have the presence of Sun, and Sun in your case happens to be the 11th Lord. Also, Venus is going to occupy till from the 7th of August. This is also going to be immensely beneficial. So, if there is any unfinished business, if there are any projects which were left and you wanted to do, then this is the right time to finish them off. This is a very good time as far as career is concerned. If you're looking to go back to your previous job and you wanted to communicate them in this regard, this is a very good time to do that as well. Let's talk about your business life now. Business is seen from the 7th house. In the 7th house, you have the presence of Rahu. Also, you have the presence of Jupiter, and the Mars, which is the owner of the 7th house, is right now in the 11th house. This is all good. But from the 19th of August, Mars is going to be in the 12th house, and it will be surrounded by its enemies. On one side Ketu, on another side Mercury. So that is not going to be good. So you need to be very wary about what you do in the business till the 19th of August. It is a good time. After that, you need to be on guard. Let's move ahead and talk about the Scorpio sign now. Let's have a look at the various planetary positions in your horoscope throughout the month of August 2023. Well, in your 4th house, we have the presence of retrograde Saturn. In your 6th house, we have the presence of Rahu and Jupiter. In the 9th house, we have the presence of Sun. In the 10th house, we have the presence of three planets. First, a retrograde Venus, then Mercury, and finally the Mars. And in your 12th house, we have the presence of Ketu. What does all this planetary placement mean for various of your life aspects is something which we are going to discuss in detail right ahead. First of all, let's talk about your luck factor. The luck factor is seen from the 9th house. and Sun is positioned there, and Sun happens to be the 10th Lord, so this is going to be a good month. However, Venus is going to enter. Venus, which is the 7th and the 12th Lord, is going to enter the 9th house from the 7th. So this is going to be an average month as far as luck is concerned. If there were some important decisions which you had thought of taking, then either do it before the 7th or do it after this month. Let's talk about the health now. Health is seen from the Ascendant, and the Ascendant Lord happens to be Mars, and it is in a good position till the 19th, but after the 19th it will be held on both sides by enemies between Ketu and Mars, so it will not be in a good position. So it is better that you offer prayers to Bhadrakali Ji after the 19th of August and be on guard as far as health is concerned. Let's talk about your love life now. Now, love life is seen from the 5th house. The owner of the 5th house is Jupiter, and it is sitting in the 6th house with Rahu, so it is going to create some kind of misunderstandings between you and your love partner. This is not a very good time as far as giving new proposals are concerned. However, Venus is going to get retrograde and come back to the 9th house on the 7th, and it is going to form a 120-degree aspect to the 5th house, which means lost love might approach you back, and in case you can forgive her then or him, then it can be a good time for your love life. Let's move ahead and talk about your marriage now. The marriage is seen from the 7th house. The Lord of the 7th house is retrograde Venus, and it is going to occupy the 9th house from the 7th of August. So it will combine with Sun at least till the 17th, which is not a very, very good position to be in. So there might be some temporary separation because in some work or some religious tours or some other travels. But largely the marital life is going to be good and smooth. Let's talk about your education now. Education is seen from the 5th house, and the owner of the 5th house is sitting in the 6th house, which is a good position as far as competitive exams are concerned. Rest, you need to make sure that you are not distracted. You need to keep your focus on throughout the month of August 2023. Let's move ahead and talk about your career now. The career is seen from the 10th house, and the owner of the 10th house is going to occupy the 10th house from the 17th, and therefore this is going to be a good month as far as your career is concerned. If you were to apply for new jobs, do it after the 17th. It will be a conducive time. Let's talk about your business life now. The business is seen from the 7th house. The owner of the 7th house is Venus. It is retrograde, sitting in the 10th house comfortably. So it is a good time as far as business is concerned. After the 7th, it moves to the 9th house. It goes along with the Sun in the 9th house. Not a very bad thing. So as far as business is concerned, this is a good month for people who are born in the Scorpio sign. Now let us move ahead and talk about the Sagittarius sign. Let's have a look at the planetary placements in your horoscope all the month of October 2023. We have Saturn in your 3rd house, Rahu and Jupiter in your 5th house, Sun in your 8th house, Venus, Mars and Mercury in your 9th house, and Ketu occupying your 11th house. What does all this planetary placement in your horoscope mean for various of your life aspects is something that we are going to discuss in detail right ahead. First of all, let's talk about the luck factor. The luck is seen from the 9th house. The owner of the 9th house is in the 8th house till the 17th of August. So till the 17th of August, the luck is very down. But after the 17th, suddenly the luck is going to improve because the Sun is going to come to its own house. And therefore, if there were some important decisions to be made, then try to defer them to a date after the 17th of August. Let's talk about the health now. Health is seen from the Ascendant. The owner of the Ascendant happens to be Jupiter, and Jupiter is comfortably placed in the 5th house. So health is going to be fine. Let's talk about your love life now. Love life is seen from the 5th house, and the owner of the 5th house is comfortably placed at least till the 19th of August. After the 19th, it is going to be a different story. Therefore, if you were planning to propose somebody, it is good to do that before the 19th of August. Rest is fine. Let's now talk about the marital prospects. Now, marriage is seen from the 7th house. The owner of the 7th house happens to be Mercury, and Mercury is placed in the 9th house along with Mars and Venus. It is not a very bad combination to be in. Sun is also going to join Mercury very soon. Venus is already there, although it will go back, and Mars will go out, and move to the 10th house from the 19th. All it promises is a good marital understanding and harmony. Let's move ahead and talk about your education now. Education is seen from the 5th house. Now, in the 5th house, we have the presence of Jupiter and Rahu, which means it is a good time as far as education is concerned, and especially it might give you, that kind of mental aptitude that you might be able to do 2 or 3 courses simultaneously, 2 or 3 degrees or diplomas or short-term courses simultaneously. Let's move ahead and talk about your career now. The career is seen from the 10th house, and the owner of the 10th house happens to be Mercury, occupying the 9th house. This is good. It is not at all bad. So, career is supporting you. If you were planning to apply for new jobs, then also it is a very good and conducive time, especially before the 24th, because on the 24th, Mercury gets retrograde and therefore it is going to watch the 8th house. So that is not going to be a very good time, except for those people who want to try and apply for jobs related to mines, excavations, or in the occult fields. Let's talk about the business prospects now. Business is seen from the 7th house. The 7th lord happens to be Mercury, and it is comfortably placed before the 24th of August, and therefore it is a good time as far as business is concerned, especially before the 24th of August. Now let's move ahead and talk about the Capricorn sign. First of all, let's look at the various planetary placements in your horoscope in the month of August 2023. Well, in your 2nd house, we have the presence of Saturn. In your 4th house, we have the presence of Rahu and Jupiter. In your 7th house, we have the presence of Sun. In your 8th house, we have the presence of Venus, and then Mercury, and then Mars. In your 10th house, we have the presence of Ketu. What does all this planetary placement mean for various of your life aspects is something that we are going to discuss in detail right ahead. First of all, talking about your luck factor. The luck is seen from the 9th house, and the owner of the 9th house, Mars, is not very comfortably placed with the owner of the 9th house, Mercury, is not very comfortably placed with Mars in the 8th house. So the luck is running on the lower side. It is not a good time to take important decisions. Defer them. Let's talk about your health factor now. The health is seen from the 1st house. The owner of the 1st house is Saturn and is comfortably placed in the 2nd house, and therefore it is a good time as far as health is concerned. No major deficits can be seen. Let's talk about your love life now. Love is seen from the 5th house. The owner of the 5th house happens to be Venus, and Venus is entering the 7th house. It is going to retrograde and enter the 7th house. So all it means that there can be some kind of blames as far as your love life is concerned. Rest everything happens to be and seems to be fine. Let's talk about the marital life now. Marriage is seen from the 7th house, and Venus is going to enter the 7th house, so there are chances of having a love marriage. For those of you who are already married, there can be a lot of excursions. There are good times which are promised as far as marital relationships are concerned. Let's move forward and talk about the education now. Now, education is seen from the 5th house, and the owner of the 5th house is sitting in the 8th house, which is not a very good sign, but from the 7th it will go and move on to the 7th house, but will not be very comfortably placed. So education is so. You'll have to put in some effort in order to make sure that you get good grades. Let's talk about your career now. Career is seen from the 10th house, and in the 10th house we have the presence of Ketu. It gives a lot of disinterest. Oh, I don't like this work. I need to change the job. These kind of feelings you get. A lot of dissatisfaction in the present work. However, if you were thinking of changing the job, it is a good time because Jupiter is aspect in the 10th house, so it will make sure that when you apply for a change, you get a good one. Let's talk about your business life now. Business is seen from the 7th house. In the 7th house, we have the presence of the 8th lord. Not at all good, especially till the 17th. After the 17th, things are going to progress. There are going to be better times after the 17th as far as business is concerned for people who are born in the Capricorn sign. Let's move ahead and talk about the Aquarius sign now. Let us see at various planetary placements in your horoscope throughout the month of August 2023. Well, Saturn occupies your 1st house, Rahu and Jupiter in the 3rd house, In the 6th house, we have the presence of Sun. In the 7th house, we have the presence of Venus, which is retrograde, and then Mercury, and then Mars. In your 9th house, we have the presence of Ketu. What does all of this planetary placements mean for various of your life aspects is something that we are going to discuss right ahead. First of all, talking about your luck factor. Luck is little low because Ketu is occupying the 9th house, especially related to love affairs, because it watches the 5th house, again with relation to the neighbors, because it watches the 3rd house as well. So the problem is that even in case we see Venus, so Venus will get retrograde, and from the 7th of August it will enter the 6th house, where it will not be very comfortably placed in the sign of Cancer, and therefore luck is running low. If there are some important decisions to be made, just make sure that you do that after some time. Let's talk about your health now. Health is seen from the Ascendant, and in the Ascendant we have the Ascendant Lord sitting, so it is going to be a good time as far as health is concerned. However, till November 4th, Saturn is going to be retrograde, and therefore it is going to have some kind of 120-degree relationship with Ketu, and some of you might suffer from some kind of a backache or problems with the feet or knee, and in that particular case you can chant the Bij mantra of Ketu, which is Om Sram Srim Sram Sa Ketve Nama. Let's talk about the love life now. Love life is seen from the 5th house. The owner of the 5th house is sitting in the 7th house, very good in case you want to propose your loved one for marriage. It is a very conducive time. Apart from that, to form new relationships also, this is a good time. Now let's move forward and talk about marriage and marital relationships. Now in the 7th house, we have the presence of Venus, Mars and Mercury, and after the 17th, Sun is going to enter, and when the Sun enters, he's the 7th Lord, and therefore if there are any kind of hiccups happening in your marital relationships, they will get over. You will be able to overcome the hurdles and have nice marital relationships throughout the month of August 2023. And if you were wishing to propose a person who you loved earlier, maybe you're not in a very good relationship now, then it is good that if case you can do that before the 7th of August. Let's move forward and talk about your educational prospects now. Educational prospects are seen from the 5th house. The owner of the 5th house is in the 7th house, but it is not very comfortably placed because it is there lying with Mars. After the 19th, the Mars is going to go to the next sign, and therefore it is going to be a good time after the 19th for education. But from the 24th, Mars is going to become retrograde, but it is going to be comfortably placed. So after the 24th, if there were some examinations in which you had flunked earlier and you want to take a retest, then it will be good after the 24th of August. Let's talk about your career now. Career is seen from the 10th house. The owner of the 10th house happens to be Mars. Mars will not be in a good position from the 19th because it will be helmed between two enemies, Ketu and Mercury, and therefore it is a good time for your career before the 19th. And after that, there might be blames. You need to be very careful, on guard on any kind of conspiracy happening against you. Always check what is being communicated about you in and around your office, in the professional atmosphere. Okay. Let's move on and talk about your business life now, which is seen from the 7th house. The owner of the 7th house will occupy the 7th house from the 17th. And therefore it is going to be a good time, better time after the 17th. Even now it is not a bad time because Sun happens to be in the 6th house, and 6th house is a good house as far as business is concerned. Let's move forward and talk about the Pisces sign now. Let's have a look at various planetary placements in your horoscope all throughout the month of August 2023. Well, in your 2nd house, we have the presence of Rahu and Jupiter. In your 5th house, we have the presence of Sun. In the 6th house, we have 3 planets. First, we have the Venus. Second, we have the Mercury. And third, we have Mars. In your 8th house, we have Ketu. And finally, in your 12th house, we have a retrograde Saturn. What does all this planetary placement mean for various of your life aspects is something that we are going to discuss in detail right ahead. First, let us talk about your luck factor, which is seen from the 9th house. The owner of the 9th house is Mars, just crossed Mercury, its enemy. So it is okay till the 19th, but from the 19th, it is going to be helmed between Mercury and Ketu, two of its arch rivals, and therefore this is not a good time as far as destiny is concerned. If you had to take some important decisions, then please defer it to some other time. Next, talk about health now, which is seen from the Ascendant, and the owner of the Ascendant happens to be Jupiter, and Jupiter is sitting in the second house. It has crossed the degrees of Rahu, so health is guarded. You have good immunity as far as health is concerned. Let's talk about your love life now. Love life is seen from the 5th house, and the 5th house is occupied right now by the 6th lord. It is not a good indicator, but Venus is going to enter, and it is going to change all of this, because Venus is going to be the 8th lord. It is going to be retrograde. So therefore, but the change is not going to be for the better. It is going to be for the worse. You need to be on guard. There might be a breakup coming ahead. Be on guard. Don't have some patience. Try to be quiet and try to bide by your time in case you want to maintain the present relationship. Now let's talk about your marital life. Marital life is seen from the 7th house. The owner of the 7th house happens to be Mercury, and Mercury is placed in the 6th house, which is not a very, very conducive sign again. And after a while, from the 19th of August, Mars is going to enter the 7th house. This is again not going to be very conducive, and therefore there might be some misunderstandings between you and your spouse. Patience will hold the key. Let's talk about your educational prospects now. Education is seen from the 5th house. The owner of the 5th house will, of course, is Moon, so it is a very fast planet. It will keep on moving from one house to the other, but Sun is occupying for the half of the month, and Venus is occupying, and Sun is the owner of the 6th and Venus the 8th house. So this is not a very good and conducive time as far as education is concerned. You need to put in more effort in case you want to get through the exams or the courses which you have taken. Let's talk about your career prospects now. Career is seen from the 10th house. The owner of the 10th house happens to be Jupiter. Jupiter is comfortably placed in the 2nd house, so therefore it is a good time as far as career is concerned. If you were looking for a pay rise, this is a good time. If you're looking for changing of projects which you always wanted to do, it is a good time. If you were looking for applying for a new job, again, this is a good time for you. Let's talk about your business prospects now. Business is seen from the 7th house. The 7th house owner is Mercury. It is sitting in the 6th house along with Venus till the 7th of August. This is a good time. But then on the 19th of August, Mars is going to occupy the 7th house. Now Mars in your case happens to be the 9th lord, so this is a good sign. So as far as your business is concerned, this is a time to grow. It is a good time. Well, this is all I have for the month of August 2023 for you guys. I hope to see you again in our next video. Till then, may God shower its immense beneficence upon you and your loved ones. Do take care of yourself. This is Prabal Nandwani signing off.